when the incredibly young Magnus Carlsen takes on Garry Kasparov. Many in the chess world are left wondering who the greater player is. This question has been debated for a long time, or rather Magnus Carlsen if Garry Kasparov is available. Remember to watch the video until the end so that we can provide an answer to your question. If you enjoyed what you saw, consider hitting the like button now, as there may not be another opportunity to do so in the future. Garry Kasparov, the Russian-born chess grandmaster who currently resides in the United States, is 54 years old and old enough to be Magnus Carlsen's father as per the rules. The fact that Kasparov retired in 2005 and adds to the difficulty of comparing the two players. If we were to consider their current abilities, Carlsen achieving victory would be a remarkable feat. Kasparov, apart from participating in the few Blitz tournaments, primarily works as a commentator for chess games. On the other hand, Carlsen is currently in his prime, actively competing in major tournaments worldwide. Therefore, evaluating their raw abilities requires careful consideration of various factors. To properly assess their skills, we have decided to revisit a significant match between these two chess legends. This match, one of the few official encounters they had, took place when Carlsen was just 13 years old. During the Blitz tournament, a young Magnus Carlsen was seen patiently waiting for Kasparov to arrive at the table, as is customary in any Blitz game. Time is crucial in such games, and Kasparov's tardiness put him at a significant disadvantage. Finally, the Russian showed up and shook hands with Carlsen before settling down. Magnus played white and began the match with a pawn to d4. Kasparov replied with an orthodox queen's pawn. Opening the stage was set for a game of the momentous significance to happen. Magnus moved his next pawn forward even to c4, aiming to threaten the black pawn, as Kasparov countered by moving his instrument to c6. This play by the Kasparov was under the slave defense. A critical feature of this defense is that it is used as a counter against the queen's gambit. The development of pieces continued as both sides try to look forward to a showdown for the ages. Magnus Carlsen's intentions at this stage was evident. In chess, the player who gains control over the central squares tends to dictate the pace and course of the game. Carlsen aimed to achieve precisely that by maintaining control over the d4 and d5 squares and their surrounding area. In response, Kasparov initiated the game by moving his knight to d7, confirming that it would indeed be a queen's gambit. Carlsen, in turn, responded by allowing his pawn to occupy the e3 square. Kasparov made the decisive move to bring his queen into play, placing it on the a5 square. This move proved swift and devastating, as it successfully pinned Carlsen's knight to the c3 square. Carlsen found himself obligated to defend the pinned knight, and the combined force of the two knights provided a small window of opportunity for the Norwegian to protect his position. However, Carlsen was in a precarious situation. While his position may have appeared stronger than his opponent's, he lacked control over the crucial center squares. Kasparov further strengthened the pin on the troubled knight by moving his bishop to b4. Forcing Carlsen to exert greater effort to stabilize the game. Carlsen responded by placing his queen in the c2 position to defend the knights that were in a precarious situation. Suddenly, a deadlock occurred at the center, prompting both sides to prioritize castling to safeguard their kings. However, before we continue, we kindly remind you to subscribe to our channel and take a moment to like the video. Come on guys, it's about time you did that. After castling, Kasparov boldly initiated a queen exchange, challenging Carlsen to respond. As a result, Kasparov was compelled to retreat his queen and attempt to regain control over the center through a pawn charge. This led to another exchange at the center, but this time, the outcome favored Magnus. The exchange of a few minor pieces unveiled a significantly advantageous position for Magnus, particularly with the bishop at c4. As time was ticking away for both players, Kasparov made a strategic move by placing his queen on c7, aiming to leverage sheer power against his opponent. Meanwhile, Magnus continued to make his moves unfazed by the pressure. Although there was still a glimmer of hope for Kasparov to stage a comeback, the game was taking a negative turn for both players. Kasparov made a strategic move by advancing his kingside pawn to the critical h6 square. This move not only attacked Carlsen's bishop, which was confidently placed at g5, but also forced it to retreat. Following this, Kasparov made an electrifying move by relocating his bishop to d6, posing a significant challenge for the young Magnus. The problem arose from the strategic placement of the Kasparov's bishop and queen, enabling him to deliver a substantial check to the Magnus in a confined area with limited room for maneuvering. Magnus found his king in a precarious position. Kasparov restarted his move by relocating his bishop to a strong position at h2. This move had the added effect of threatening the Magnus's king with a check, and since the bishop was supported by the queen, Magnus couldn't remove the piece from play. Kasparov then positioned his knight in front of the queen, prompting Carlsen to capture the bishop with his king, while Kasparov simultaneously captured Carlsen's knight. This resulted in an equal exchange of power between the two players. Kasparov had maintained control of the game until this point, but suddenly Magnus found himself with the momentum to launch his offensive. Without hesitation, he positioned his queen at c5 and coordinated his efforts with his pieces. The simultaneous movement of the multiple pieces aimed to mount an attack on the c6 square and retake control of it. A brief exchange of the pawns ensued, leaving Carlsen with the advantage in terms of power and positioning. Carlsen then moved his knight to the d5 square, posing a threat to the Kasparov with an unequal trade of a rook for a knight. Sensing the danger, Kasparov swiftly moved his rook out of the harm's way. Carlsen revealed an aggressive play from his commanding position. The tide of the game was undeniably shifting in favor of the young Norwegian prodigy. As the game picked up pace, the world champion found himself playing catch-up in terms of tactics. Carlsen thoroughly enjoyed the aggressive nature of the game from his advantageous position. Kasparov initiated a threat of check by moving his queen to the g6 square. However, Magnus skillfully defended against the potential attack by utilizing his own queen, setting the stage for a possible queen trade. Kasparov accepted this trade with minimal hesitation, even though many crucial pieces had already been lost in the game. As a result of the queen exchange, Magnus obtained 2 pawns on the g-line, leaving the h-line vulnerable to attack. Subsequently, Kasparov launched an assault on the Magnus's backline. At this point, there was a slight advantage for Kasparov. Magnus still held 2 pawns on the g-line. The game intensified and became more technical as they continued to exchange pieces. Eventually, Magnus could claim a 1-pawn advantage, but both players persistently checked each other, hoping for a mistake or an opportunity from their opponent. A fair trade of rooks occurred at the e1 square, further escalating the intensity and technicality of the game as they continued to exchange pieces. Carlsen executed a check on the Kasparov's king by moving his rook to h1. After some fair trades, Carlsen increased his pawn advantage, establishing a quadruple advantage. In response, Kasparov retaliated by moving his rook to b2, attempting to regain some ground and cut down Carlsen's advantage. However, as the game progressed, it became increasingly apparent that a draw was likely outcome. Eventually, both players reached an agreement and settled for a stalemate, concluding their epic clash. It was a remarkable display of talent, as a 13-year-old Carlsen went head-to-head with the world chess champion, showcasing his remarkable abilities to the world. If you found this game entertaining, please show your support by giving it a thumbs up and clicking the subscribe button to join our YouTube family. Stay tuned for more exciting chess content as we strive to offer you the most engaging chess videos available.